make sure I have the right profile for OBS. I do. Here we go. All right, we are streaming and apparently we're live. Good. Okay. All right, we should be live any second. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to pause that so I don't actually hear anything. Cool. Okay, and I'm hosting it on Chill's room. Cool. Okay, and I'm going to tweet this out since that's what Tio usually does. Okay, so we have tweeted it out. We're good to go. And hello, everyone. Okay, so normally this is where Tio would say this is where we do the raw show with all the flubs and errors left intact. And that's how it will appear on YouTube later on as a hangout. But right now we're live on Twitch as well. And eventually, you know, or not eventually, I'll be editing this down so that it becomes a podcast by tomorrow at the latest. And yeah, so that's how that's pretty much how it goes. So but Tio is busy this week, and with Musco out, we decided to have a kind of a special episode with myself and Dr. Swotor, our guest, coming back. I appreciate it. Thanks, Dr. Swotor. How's it going?
I'm going good. Now, before I get too far into it, am I supposed to have hit record already?
Yeah, if you have Audacity rolling, go ahead and hit record now.
Okay, sorry for that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We're going. I haven't started the actual show yet. I'm about to do the official opening here in just a sec.
Oh, good. Well, while you're doing that, I want to see if I can get my channel to host your channel. And
okay,
I've never done that before.
Right, you just need to be logged into your account. And what you do is you go onto the chat bar.
My chat bar?
Yeah, where it's in your channel, on your chat bar where it says send a message.
Okay.
And you do /host space OotiniCast. And when we're done, you just type /unhost. You don't have to type OotiniCast. In fact, it will confuse it if you try.
Host and then Ootini
space OotiniCast. Yep. And that's how you do that. You can also set it up so it'll automatically host, but we don't need to worry about that right now. Get some water going, and we'll get going on the official show here in just a sec.
All right.
All right. Going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast. I've got a really good feeling about this. This is episode 332, being recorded on Thursday, April 26th, 2018. I'm your host, Chill, and Tio is not here today. He's super busy, and with Musco getting married and going on an extended, honeymoon vacation and all that. Congratulations, by the way. But there really isn't a whole lot of news, so we're going to do a very special episode with returning guest, Dr. Swotor. How you doing, Dr. Swotor?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm happy to be at work when nobody else is.
I'll bet. And how have you been doing? And I know you've been streaming, so how's that going?
It's going really well. I've been getting more used to it and just trying to share me dying with the masses as often as possible.
Yeah.
So for everyone that sort of to explain all the dying that happens on my channel, I've been playing story mode ops for a couple years solid, and I love all of them. And then when the command crates started, it just felt like I couldn't get the other members of my team up into that high-end gear. So we took a massive step back when the highlighted weekly veteran mode disappeared. And
Okay.
so we're finally at the point where all of us are so tired of the story mode that we're now back into we're back up as a progression running group that goes about 2 days a week. And we've been really focusing on Terror from Beyond because for me personally, I've never gotten through the end of that one. So
Nice. Okay.
it's been a lot of fun. We've gotten to the Terror on 2 different weeks, and we're getting closer every time.
Yeah,
So
that fight is fun and kind of
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It's just really neat to see all the mechanics that get deleted when you're used to story mode.
Hmm.
And you just wonder, like, wow, you have to use your brain if that thing is there. Why couldn't it still be there and just hurt a little less? Or,
Right.
I really like to think hard, and I like to accomplish difficult things. So it's frustrating to lose so much, but when I log off, I feel better when we get closer. So
Hmm.
I mean, that's just one element of what I've been doing on the stream. There are other things I've been doing in game that haven't been broadcast, and I can talk about those in a little bit. But I'm actually curious to hear how things have been going for you too, Chill.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, let's see. This is normally where I would throw it to Tio. Of course, he is out this week. Um, but, nothing sinister. He's just super busy. And with Musco out, Musco's getting married and going on a month-long honeymoon, roughly. Whatever it is, however long it is exactly, and so there's not a whole lot of news. So this seemed like a good time for Tia to be able to take some time off, and we can do this episode with you. And so I'm excited about that. Let me give a shout out to the chat room, and let's see, it pulls it up here. Bishop Irar is here. Cogwhistle. Dekion is here. Hey, Dekion. You're here, Dr. Sotor. Electrical Skateboard. Liba's here. Is Liba Roja. Hey, Liba. Medulla Pen is here. Hey, Pen Dracos. Receiving. Squitchy Twitchy. Working Class Nerd is here. Zam Zam is here. And Zen. Hi, everyone. And thanks for showing up on this very unusual time. And what I've been doing in stream is working on leveling Chilcroft the Mercenary. Well, she's level 70 now. And she's past Risha Yavin, where I was at the last show, finished Ziost, and she's working through Kotfi. She's gotten chapter 9, she's gotten the Alliance, and now she's past that, and she's gotten done the Cleo chapter and so on. And got a little bit lucky. I already have 2 of 7 of the set bonuses. And so that's going pretty well. Feel you especially like when you're, because she turned level 70 like on Ziost. So when I started Kotfi, everything in there is basically like level 60, and you don't really get ranked down for it. They're still green, and so you just tear through everything in like chapter 1, 2, 3, all the way. Even where I am now, chapter 9, it's like. It's like level 63, 64, and it definitely tearing through it. So it's still pretty fun though, and I'm still enjoying seeing this from the Empire's point of view and so on. So I'm liking that, and so it's been a lot of fun. Do you have any specific questions, Dr. Switter? Or?
No, I was just actually wanting to sort of, because you've been streaming longer than me, and I wanted to hear what you've been up to in the game, because one of the things that I am constantly thinking about is, there are probably other ways I could play, and
right.
and like I said, not everything that I play is broadcast. So I was just thinking about how your characters are going and what you kind of emphasize.
Yeah. Well, certainly. I mean, there's tons of ways to play the game, and for me, leveling is probably just the kind of the most fun. I just enjoy seeing the story from different angles and different points of view, and with different characters making different choices. For me, that's just one of the fun things about SWTOR, is you do get to have that difference. And so yeah, so that's sort of been my big thing. I'm not sure. However, we're coming up a week from Friday is going to be May the 4th, so it's Star Wars Day. So I'm kind of planning on having like a longer SWTOR stream, and I might be doing something different on that day for sure. I'm not sure. I haven't made finalized plans, but I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of SWTOR that day.
Yeah.
Do you have any May the 4th plans for streaming?
Just hearing you say that, it made me freak out a little bit inside because I've been so focused for 10 plus hours every day with the spring semester wrapping up. Um, you think when you finish all the school that there is on your particular skill tree that is over, but then you become the teacher, and it's way, way worse from our side of it. Um, so I've been just scrambling to get as many grades submitted every day as I can, and
Oh boy.
but without letting the things that I really enjoy about my life break and fall out of my schedule. So that's the challenge. I mean, it's a constant feeling that reminds me of doing the Dark versus Light event while I was getting ready to defend my dissertation.
Oh, okay.
Because those two things happened for me at the exact same time, and I was very driven to do both, even though one of them is clearly more important.
Right, right.
You can finish your doctorate anytime, but you need that mount. I'm just kidding. So I I've been really focusing in. I still have time for my raid teams, and I've actually been leveling a tune for the first time in over a year, and I recreated my main sorcerer, but on the Satil Shan, and older with gray hair and a beard. And so my
Okay.
thought is, when I first leveled him, he was a madness sorcerer, and I didn't understand anything about the game, and he was pure evil. And then now he's a light 5 character on the Starforge.
Oh wow.
And so now that I'm on the Satil Shan, I have no legacy. I have no guild. I have no Dark versus Light leveling up armor, and I have no rocket boots.
Right. The
And
old-fashioned way.
it's it's so terrible, and it takes me 5 minutes to quick travel. And it's been really fun to connect with all the things I take for granted in the game, and
Right.
suffer through, like, oh man, I have to go 1,200 meters that way on foot because I need to turn in these 2 missions and I don't want to come back here.
Oh, okay.
So it's yeah, it's
Yeah, I kind of remember some of that, like especially like the second time through, like say Coruscant or whatever, and you realize, oh yeah, if I quick travel now, I can save 10 seconds.
right.
But if I on the or maybe like I need to run all the way back because I know I'm gonna have to quick travel, and it'll save me much more time, the next time. But quick travel will still be on cooldown if I do it now. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was
So,
nasty.
but I'm having a lot of fun because I'm less extreme with my choices. So the first time I played, I was definitely driven to be Dark 5 as quick as possible.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah, right.
when I decided, Kotfi started, and I really started to feel like these dark side choices don't feel consistent with who I am at this point in my life. So I switched that character completely to be light 5, but still I wasn't really making decisions. I was just looking at, which blue choice does BioWare give me, and I'm going to pick that every time. So this time around, I'm thinking more like a person that is kind of a reflection of me, but as I see myself being this Sith sorcerer who used to be a slave and has these is driven to rise up the ranks and eventually take over.
Right.
And then Kem Vol is there judging everything I do. So sometimes he can just deal with
Right.
it and go kick rocks, and other times I think, well, I can let Kem Vol be happy with this one. So I'm really trying to get more of those personality experiences out of the choices, and even use what I know about the Myers-Briggs and those kinds of questions and how they're fixed choice. And one of them clearly is supporting, for example, an extroverted mentality, and some are supporting an introverted one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to access that kind of knowledge while I'm playing the game. And it's a lot to think about, but
Oh, that's cool.
I said a few minutes ago, I like to think hard while I'm playing. So I'm kind of manufacturing a new experience that I haven't taken the time to do.
Right. So you're already doing it differently for light versus dark and sort of more nuanced personality wise. Are you also, because you made the character appear more aged, are you playing him aged in any way?
Yeah. So I think that on a subconscious level, probably Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi had something to do with this.
Okay.
But last time I was on OotiniCast, I sort of stood up for that portrayal of Luke and just said that from my experience being a counselor, that there are so many people that I've counseled at that stage in their life that had that idealistic hope and that triumph going for them in their 20s and 30s. And, their Jedi temple was destroyed by, something they loved,
Right.
metaphorically. And that even though I would have loved to see the triumphant Luke for 2 hours instead of a couple minutes, I get that character arc. So with my character, I think I'm trying to not play him like I've already killed, Valkorian spoilers, or anything like that, but just trying to think more about, I'm not making this choice because it's red or blue. I'm taking it because, this person's a jerk and I probably would not have a problem with them and, not living anymore. Or, this choice is a good one, but it lets me do things within the Sith Order that are probably consistent with my goals. So
Okay.
that's what I've been thinking about. And I actually have bigger plans for this. I'm sort of practicing on this character because I have this intimate knowledge of this character from the last 6 years.
Right.
So
Right, yeah. So even though obviously, the character wouldn't have met Kim Vol for the first time twice or anything like that, in
Right.
some ways you are sort of playing him as though he's an extension of the older character or the original character.
yeah, absolutely. So the way I use my companions on the Starforge is I don't really use the vanilla companions all too much, except for Ashara. I was so happy that our paths crossed again. I definitely collected her from the terminal, but getting that sort of reunification a month or so ago was really nice because I never, picked up any kind of romantic plot line with Lana. I just stuck it out and was like, no, I need Ashara back. So it's really nice to kind of reconnect with Kim. And actually the leveling, this is a different topic. Maybe we can circle back to it, but I don't know how many of the vanilla companions I will actually get before I get to start doing operations and things. I'm level 42 and I'm on Balmora. So I
Wow,
checked.
that's over leveled, man.
I know. I checked the box for the planetary missions, and it just happens. I've only done one PvP match, so I could get the relics and the implants and things.
Okay.
I've done 0 flashpoints, and I'm trying to kick the rebels off of Balmora, and I just keep gaining levels. So, it's nice, but so much different than the last time I spent any significant time on that planet.
Very funny.
So,
All right. Let's see. How about we do the tip of the week and then we get even further into like the whole psychology thing.
absolutely, let's do it.
All right. So that'll bring us to the tip of the week. And we have 2 of them this week. The first one's from Alex. Greetings from Missouri. Cool. There are a few armor sets, and this is kind of harkening back to something from the last episode. There are a few armor sets that change the source of the rocket boost. In other words, rocket boost usually just sort of defaults to your boots, unlikely as that seems from a physics point of view, but, anyway. But it looks really cool when you do find a piece of armor that the jetpack comes out the back, Boba Fett style. But Alex is giving us some more information along these lines. There are a few armor sets that change the source of the rocket boost. Crimson Raider, Vile Hunter, Havoc Squad, red and white, more on this later, Mandalorian Seeker, Havoc Squad Specialist, Wasteland Raider, and Mandalorian Clansman, to name a few. For Havoc Squad armor, red and white is currently bugged, though. When you use the flame, it is by the backpack on the armor, but it's flipped, so it looks like the flame is shooting up your character's rear. Most armor sets I've noticed have some kind of jetpack or something like it if they have the effect for this effect for the rocket boost. If you're a bounty hunter, Death from Above and Rocket Out also change, which that's cool to know. A lot of bounty hunter abilities that involve rocket boots will use the armor instead if it's an option. If you want to see the Havoc Squad armor bug really weird, wear it while using Death from Above. Also on the sets I mentioned above, some only use a single rocket and some are dual rockets. There are some that I haven't tested out yet, like Relic Plunderer's armor set that would be a good candidate for a Rocketeer cosplay, at least the chest piece, which is kind of cool. It's interesting. I also was not aware that there are dual and single jet armor packs. So I didn't know that was an option. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, me either. That's actually, all of this is new information for me. So that's really cool.
Yeah. All right, and the second tip is from Medulla. Medulla writes, I was working on clearing up achievements, and I remembered that I still needed the achievement for killing the colossal droid on Iokath. This achievement has been funky for a while. Whether intended or not, you won't get credit for killing it if you're in a raid group, which means you won't complete the mission and won't get the achievement. It's a boss with 8 million health. So it seems like it might be a bit tough for a group of 4 to take on, but he's really not. At the home base area of Iokath, there is an R2 type droid that sells certain items that give you temporary abilities. In this case, deployable turrets and an armor-piercing rocket launcher. Buying these items for 10,000 credits and some Iokath crystals makes the colossal droid trivial. We're able to duo him by using the turrets and rockets on cooldown and barely took any health hits. The vendor is a non-traditional vendor, not noted as a vendor on the map, but is a droid that starts a cutscene when you talk to him. I've attached some screenshots of the vendor and his location on the Imperial side, and those will be in the show notes. Though I'd shoot it out there that since I'm sure there's achievement hunters like me who are annoyed that they couldn't get that one easily. And it shows the I7S7 vendor and where it is on the map. And it's for at least on the Imperial side, it's the Imperial Iokath base, and it's, it's like where there's you have the northern part that's sort of east to west, and then it's like when it turns and kind of goes south, then more or less on the west side there, near the words War Supplies Vendor. There you go, and there's in fact a little cutscene. And by random allotment, the winner is Medulla. So congratulations, Medulla, the winner. You're the winner of a Tonfon or M83R Droid Pet Code, courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided Cartel Market pack from the latest shipment. If you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com before the next show. And that will bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years. Yeah, and Medulla's in the chat. Hey, Medulla, congratulations. So we're on the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years, or until we run out of time. And so Dr. Swotor and I are going to talk about gaming and psychology. And since this is obviously a subject we've at least touched on before, is there anything specific that you want to go into right away, Dr. Swotor?
Well, for me, a lot of the things that I've been experiencing through the game have to do with sort of the social dynamics and the team building, since we're trying to get into the more difficult than story mode content.
Okay.
And so I've just been thinking a lot about how the way that we're motivated to play, which was one of the three main topics in my dissertation. It was online gaming, our personality in real life, and our motivation to play,
Right.
and how those three things intersect at different points. And I've really just been noticing that I can get really focused on a certain boss, and if I try and try and try, and I'm the reason we wipe. That's actually the best feeling for me to have to deal with the rest of the night, because it might be frustrating to the other players, but I have control over that to some extent. I can think about what happened. I can watch the video from my stream,
Okay.
and I can notice, oh man, I stood, like, I ran there, but that's exactly where the bad thing was going to hit me. If I would have stayed put, so I can critique my own playing,
Mm-hmm.
and I can help to solve that puzzle for the group next time. So that's sort of a amalgamation of having this high desire to achieve and to beat difficult things, and to earn the in-game achievements even,
Mm-hmm.
or beat the we four members of my raid team have been really focused on Commander Moken in the Battle of Rishi Flashpoint, and we went in there multiple nights just spending credits and credits and credits to try to bring him down. And it's a terrible fight, because if you've ever wondered, like, oh, SWTOR is fun, but it would be way better if you had to do a math problem while you're playing it. Well, that's Commander Moken. And so it really helps if everyone has that same drive, or has a good level, like in terms of how you score. There's a questionnaire that I use that shows you your score in each of these motivation categories. But then when you're doing ops and the team gets a little bigger, now there's 8 people or 16 people, you're bound to have different levels of motivation. And for things that, they enjoy playing ops, and sure, it would be nice to beat this tough thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be frustrated all the way until I pass out and go to sleep if we don't beat this boss. So, of course, I am driven crazy by not killing these bosses. So the psychology of why we play and being able to interact with each other, and the team building aspect, and these are the things I'm good at. And Medulla, who gave us our tip this week, he's really good at explaining how these different moves proc other things and different buffs, and how to use different moves in the rotation for all the different classes, and that's a big strength of his. And so we're interacting during that team, and then there's other people that are really good at creating the atmosphere in the team. But I might mention something casually, like, if you do this, we're going to die, and then that's not the big highlight. That's not the thing they hear. They just hear wah wah wah, ready, check. And and so it's just about trying to balance all these different motivations: the people who play for social reasons, the people who play because it's a nice way to cap off their day when they've been at work doing focused grown-up stuff all day, and then the people who I want to destroy the nightmare of all nightmares tonight. And so we're all interacting, trying to create this shared goal. So that's where I'm at with the psychology of this game right now. So I'm just curious, what kinds of things, did you pick up anything that we can keep this conversation going? Where do you fall on that, and what kinds of things?
Well, when I was doing operations, for me it was more the sense of achievement was sort of important to me, and just sort of advancing as a group. When I had the opposite experience, when I was the reason for a wipe, I always felt bad, because I was for me that was oh yeah, and I just wasted all the time and in the same, in credits, repair credits, but mostly the time because, that's sort of more limited, of the whole raid group. So, even and then that just, it's just different degrees. It's like, was it my fault because I wasn't, fully aware of the mechanics, or did I just make a mistake? Or did I let something happen that I shouldn't have let happen? So it kind of depended on exactly what went wrong too. But a lot of times, like if that, because and then when you're tanking it, you're the reason for a wipe a fair bit of the time, because it doesn't take much of an error when you're tanking to just completely screw up the mechanics of the fight.
Yeah.
If there's a tank swap and it doesn't happen in the right time, it's a wipe.
Right.
That sort of thing. Whereas, if the DPS slightly screws up his rotation, well, maybe we all wipe, and the boss was at 5 health and we would have gotten the kill, but probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a really good point, is, certain roles, there's a greater amount of forgiveness for those mechanical mistakes. And, I think that I had alluded to the motivation questionnaire that I used and how we get different scores. And I actually think the content we play might actually be a result of those scores, but could also change those scores as well.
Probably, yeah.
So my hypothesis is that last year, when I was, busy for other reasons, but also resigned to, we're going to end up being a story mode team for a while.
Right.
I don't think that mechanics or beating these different fights that I've never won before had mattered. So I think that maybe some of those, so achievement is broke down into 3 different subcategories on that questionnaire. There's advancement and mechanics and competition with other players. So I think that maybe my score for the mechanics part is higher because that's what I'm experiencing when I play. Whereas you could take a break from that. So even though my achievement score could be pretty high, the average score for that is pretty low because I'm not really interested in PvP. So my competition score is low. Whereas other players, they focus primarily on PvP. They're doing war zones all the time or ranked every day. And it's really annoying to them when they lose to teams that they feel like, the PvP mechanics were not followed. So, that's interesting too, is in ops teams, you're a team and you're trying to address the problem that way. And if you're doing ranked PvP, you probably have a team and you have it down to a science that, I'm one of 4 in this group and I do this when we're on this map and that works for us. But in war zones, it's kind of a hodgepodge of, it's the same thing I'm talking about with operations teams where people are motivated by different things. Is, that unranked PvP experience, you have people where it's so offensive to not go to the right node. And then there's other people that are ready to type good game like 5 seconds into the match because their plan for the weekly is to lose 20 matches. So it's really interesting to witness all of the rage and all of the casual response in those Warzone matches for me. But going into the whole tank DPS healing dynamic too, I think that, maybe we're all sort of programmed to experience mechanics different ways based on what role we focus on. And for me too, I'm trying to have some times where I'm not healing because I actually somewhat enjoy the other 2 roles. But then I start feeling like I should just be healing sometimes. So
Right. And when I'm doing solo stuff, I'm often sort of setting my own rules and like meeting my own criteria. So like I did one character a while back where I was not allowing him to die, and if he died, that was it. I wasn't advancing that character anymore, and he did die, and and I did stop actually,
Wow.
and it was disappointing at the time. And like with the current character, I wasn't using XP boosts until I was past the class story, and then I kind of said, whatever, well, let's get to 70.
Yeah.
But all I was doing was the class story and then the world arc for everyone, and as a subscriber, that was easily enough to keep me on level essentially, and even slightly ahead. Partly because this character had also joined the guild, so you also have a little bit of a boost from that. And one of the things I've been doing on the last few characters is trying to keep my companions in DPS as long as possible before I like absolutely have to have them on heals.
Yeah.
And for the current character, which is a mercenary, she's level 70 and she still has her DPS on heals because she has just enough self-healing that you can just kind of get away with it. Slap the self heal, the little weak self heal a couple times between fights, and it works pretty well. And you actually, it's kind of helped me to like find all the little tricky ways to like, there's certain abilities that do, usually it's a stun essentially on weaks. And so whenever there's a group of weaks, it's like I'm always ready to use those abilities almost exclusively and take almost no damage in return. And it's become kind of a sort of a fun mini game to see like can I finish the fight where my companion takes no damage and I'm at like 95% health.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's like you're creating your own hard mode challenges, because when you're leveling and you're in the planetary stuff, you're probably not going to die anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I remember dying a lot in 2012, but I guess the level sync does a lot for that, and I think that unless you completely miss something mechanics wise for several seconds in the story leveling, you're probably fine at all times.
Right. Yeah, there's always a few weird fights, and especially back in the day when you weren't necessarily over geared or whatever, or over leveled, and they actually were rather hard to pass. There's a few fights like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, you're right. It's just it's sort of a face roll, but I enjoy the conversations and the stories and stuff as well. So
Yeah.
for me,
I think
that's the main part.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think the story is so good in this game, and I don't really enjoy sitting there and watching all the cutscenes because sometimes, and maybe that's because I should turn the subtitles off, because if I've finished reading it, sometimes I don't feel like I need to sit there. So maybe that's something I can try. I'm thinking out loud, for everyone who's listening. But I think that it's really neat going through the experience of that and trying out all the different things. Like if you have a move on your bar that you just got, even if it doesn't seem like it's going to kill 5 of the guys in front of you, I think it's really cool to go out of your way to use that move for the next 20 mobs and figure out exactly how you can use it, because BioWare programmed it into your character for some reason. It could be useful in PvE or PvP, or it could be very situational, but it could cause you not to die if you ever take that character into the harder content. And for when you're having an impact on a team, whether it's a Warzone team or an operations team or Flashpoint, I think people appreciate that feeling that everyone on this team knows what their moves do.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, I'm sort of accessing that social impact as well. Is that if I'm going into it and I'm not trying to win, that could be fine for me. But then I either am thinking about how that impacts everyone else or I'm not. And so some of the frustration and the rage that you might see on Fleet Chat are probably the byproduct of people who just got out of a war zone with people who don't think about the game the same way they do. Right. So, I try to experience some compassion whenever I hear how terrible somebody is, but that's part of the MMO culture, I think, too. I don't think that ever will be parsed out of the community. I think we'd think something is wrong with chat one day if it was completely supportive of everybody.
That makes sense. Something I had thought about the other day, um, like I've had people who in the stream chat have said, hey, I'm coming back to the game, or hey, I was in the beta and I played, on opening day for a little while and blah blah blah, and now I'm thinking about coming back, stuff like that. Um, do you think that there's like a a link between like personality styles and like how people play games, like whether they come back to games ever or whether they just kind of stick to one game and sort of are essentially monogamous with that game, that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing, like or whether they are a dilettante and play tons of different games and
Yeah.
hardly ever settle on a main game.
Well, I think that there are some people that the idea of having a main game isn't very appealing to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're in a state in our human progression where everything is so fast and we accomplish so much in every day.
Right.
We commute far distances for our job now, and that's because we have vehicles and interstates, and all of those things come together and work so that millions of people can have jobs where, even before the interstates were set up the way they were,
Mm.
you'd have to be about 20 miles or more closer to where you live in order to have certain jobs. And so over time, and now we have cell phones, right? So, I remember when I was a kid that you would just leave a message on someone's machine
Right.
and you might hear back from them this week. And so now that same reaction of, oh, they didn't respond to me the whole week is now, oh, they haven't responded to me and I left that voicemail an hour ago. So we're just going so fast. And now video games are usually ahead of that curve. That's what I learned in my the literature review, where you're writing just about what we know about the thing before my study hopefully expands what we know. And
Right.
so when you're just reviewing the, I guess 30, 40 years that video games as we know them have started to develop, that you just end up in this situation where there's so many new games, there's so many niche games and indie titles and triple A titles, and you know there's so many things that are online compatible. There's cell phone games now that get
Mm-hmm.
huge followings,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so the idea for a large percentage of people on this planet right now that I will play this one game 10 plus hours every week. Every week of 2018, so that before 6.0 drops, I can beat veteran mode Isaacs. It's not something that is going to appeal to a lot of people. So that has to do with why we're seeing games that have lots of MMO components, but aren't the traditional, World of Warcraft, EverQuest kind of MMO, SWTOR kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're doing these MMOs, but with, first person shooting, and we're doing these MMOs, but with casual activities that you complete in 5 minutes or less on your phone.
Right.
And the reason for that is there may not be an appetite if we continue to develop with limited focus or limited attention span to just be, it's the jack of all trades is the master of none kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I think that many gamers are aiming to get the experience, finish the story, maybe even on the easiest difficulty, and then move on.
Right.
And so that's where we're at. I think I answered your question.
No, I think so.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like in the streaming community, there are streamers who basically do nothing but go from game to game to game, and if they have an audience, the audience just kind of follows them. Um, and often they're like doing beta stuff or like first day the game drops, that sort of thing, and the idea is that their stream is always about whatever the new hotness is, and then there are streamers who have streamed SWTOR for 6 years or League of Legends for 9 years, 8 years or
Yeah.
whatever. So, so that there seems to be that sort of spectrum, you know, even in the way people actually just sort of stream and present the game in an entertainment way. So
Right. I've actually been thinking about that too since I've gotten into streaming. And, the idea so far, the only game I've ever streamed is SWTOR.
mm-hmm.
And that's because I'm Dr. SWTOR. It kind of works. But I've been thinking, especially for certain PS4 games, or because SWTOR is really the only game I play on my computer. But I've just been thinking, if I tried to diversify, would I enjoy that? Or should I diversify because my audience might appreciate that? Or
Mm-hmm.
and then I started thinking that, my perception of some of the most successful streamers, if they're looking at it as being a career or something, is that maybe they tend to play the games that are hot right now because there's
Right.
an appetite to see that content.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, if I were to do that, I'd be playing a lot of games I'm not really that passionate about.
Right.
So maybe it wouldn't work for me. But then certain ones I do really enjoy. There's a lot of games coming up that I would love to play, but I frequently just end up playing them when they become PS Plus games or heavily discounted because I'm so busy with SWTOR.
Right. Right.
When those games are new and cost $60. So that's just what happens to me with, professional obligations and my desire to be great at harder content that I can actually get into in SWTOR.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for me, it's kind of I'm definitely, sort of the just play a few games and find games that you really like and then play the hell out of them. That's usually been my style.
Yeah.
Like there was a time, I played World of Warcraft and then Burning Crusade, and I sort of burnt myself out on it for a while. I ended up going back to it later when I met Tio. But when I left World of Warcraft at that point, I tried like tons of different MMOs that were available at the time, and kind of found out that, like, especially a lot of the free ones just didn't have the quality there. So for me, there was like an important sort of quality level that sort of, would either meet my expectations or not. And if the game, just wasn't of that level, I just found myself getting tired of them really, really quickly. Like almost none of the free ones at that time, you could actually jump in the world. Like you'd have to just run around flat. There was no such thing as jumping, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And because again, this is like Burning Crusade. This is a while ago. But then the more premium ones all had the ability to jump. And were more three-dimensional in that way. And it's such a simple thing. It's such a small thing, but it's sort of. I noticed that it was like one of the things that when I was trying out all those other games was like kind of immediately let me know, okay, this is a low quality game or this is a higher quality game, and it absolutely affected like how long I was able to play that game before I got tired of it. And so for me, there's definitely like there's something about having like a really high quality game, like where all the bells and whistles are there, and it looks good, but it feels good to play as well. And once I have that, that's one of the things I'm certainly looking for when when I want to settle into a game and play it long term. Like if SWTOR, like if you couldn't jump around in SWTOR and like look for datacrons and stuff, for me that would be a much different game. It really would.
It would.
Yeah.
How many datacrons? I have none of them on Satil Shan except for the 3 I've taken the time to do, which is nice, but I did not think I'd ever be doing that again.
Right, yeah. If you're doing the brand new server thing, oh boy, and no transfer. Ooh, that's a lot of datacrons to find. And some of them are, a few of them are super easy, and some of them are easy but out of the way, and then you've got the medium ones that require a couple of annoying jumps, and then you've got the pains in the butt. You've got the Hoth cunning Datacron,
Yeah.
where if you miss a jump, you're waiting 5 minutes for the
Also the Groffits. Was that
oh, the
Rishi?
Groffits on Rishi. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to find the special ones, and then you have to unlock go
It's
behind the magic waterfall.
yeah.
Essentially.
It's the worst. I had a day where I thought I'm gonna get the Groffits. I don't remember what they are, but it's the item that drops off the rare Groffits. I was like, my team needs this Datacron, and I will get the three pieces you need to activate the laser that goes behind the
Mm-hmm.
waterfall and breaks the rock or whatever.
Right,
I'll
right.
do that so for our raid night we can go pick it up. And it was 8 o'clock, and I did not have my first counseling appointment to go do that day until 1 p.m.
Hmm.
It was 8 a.m. And I farmed and I farmed, and it got to 12:15, and I needed to leave my house to go to my office.
Oh
And one of
man.
my guildies jumped in and killed a couple of them with me. And then I was just like, you know what? This is the last one. If I have to leave, can you keep farming this location? He's like, yeah, sure. And then the next one had it. And I was just like,
Is the
oh my
named
God,
one? Yeah.
almost 5 hours.
Oh my
Man.
gosh.
So yeah, but I like things in the game like that. Like the hat that drops on Oricon from the person who guards that rock bridge. I still have never gotten that hat. So, it's things like that that keep me going, I think.
Yeah.
Define consciousness. We didn't define consciousness today, Chill. That's something for next episode, I think.
Yeah. That's a project.
However, I think I did name my stream the Stream of Consciousness. So
Yes.
if you want to jump
Very
in
clever.
to twitch.tv/Dr. Swotor, I can talk about that anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. And when do you usually stream, or do you have a set schedule, or I assume it kind of varies a little bit.
I sort of have a set schedule. So I raid with Death Star Troopers, which is a operations team from AIE.
Okay.
So I do that on Sunday nights, and that's at 5:15 Pacific is usually when we form up and start. So that's 8:15 Eastern. And then I have my team that is Tuesday and Thursday. And that's the team that is designed to try and do veteran mode or
Right.
story
Get
mode.
past the story mode.
Story
Yeah.
mode if there's a specific reason why, like if someone needs to kill Isaacs or something, or if we need conquest points and we don't have the full team, so doing something that's attainable makes more sense. So Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. We used to do Monday, but that's switching to Tuesday. So, and then I do try to get on a couple other times if I'm doing master flashpoint goals or veteran or master uprising goals, um, or I have an idea for a episodic kind of content for my stream where maybe go specifically start digging into what personality types each of the class stories based on class and
Sure.
gender.
Hmm.
I have this idea that we're in a personality sandbox and that there are certain personalities that may not be possible for certain types of classes.
Hmm.
And so maybe that could explain why so many people don't like certain classes, that maybe there is just a disconnect where you don't appreciate the options the character has in their dialogue because they don't reflect what is important to you as a person, or
Interesting.
the desire when we play is to be someone that is completely different than us, and so having a
Right.
character that lines up with us so well, that could be annoying as well. So it's sort
Right.
of,
Right.
yeah.
So the idea is, do you want to play the outgoing smuggler because you're outgoing, or do you want to play the outgoing smuggler because you're more introverted, but it's fun to just pretend in a safe environment,
Yeah,
Or
yeah, that's my thought. I think that I see myself a lot in the Sith Inquisitor because I think I've played that class too much to be healthy. Um, but maybe there's a reason that I didn't switch, because I know a lot of people that would main a different character during 1 and 2.0 than they do now. And so maybe there's sort of a personality bound psychological explanation for why that didn't happen to me, but it does to some other people. And maybe, I'm thinking about the game too hard too. That maybe I'm looking for something that isn't there. So that's my idea for if I started this episodic playing session, is to take a class.
Right.
That character only exists on stream. And as I'm doing these discussions, I could actually be doing a personality inventory with what that character has to choose from. That's sort of my idea. And conclude more definitively that the agent is either this, or this, but it can't really be this because all the choices reflect that that's not a thing.
Right.
So that's sort of
okay. Yeah, I like that. That'd be fun.
I think that would be a lot of fun. It would take a lot of time too, and so that would help me to sort of bond with whatever audience I'm able to create.
Right. So how scientific would you get? Would you like do a conversation and like note down the choices and whether you felt they were more, extrovert or introvert, or thought,
well, it's funny you should say
or whatever.
That, because whenever I'm playing, I always have a Myers-Briggs type indicator right next to me, because for some reason I thought that would be a good idea. And I realized a couple weeks ago that that's true, that my folder with them are always like right there. And so I could, if there was an audience for that, and like we just wait before I hit 1, 2, or 3 and sort of break down my suspicions about like this choice, like 1 clearly values the lives of many people over the objective goals of the Sith Empire. Mm-hmm. So, then based on that choice, it leads to this. And I really love conversation trees in video games anyway. I love games where, like for example, Heavy Rain is one of my favorite games ever, because you end up with all these different endings and characters live or die. And so SWTOR does some of that, even though some of them are the illusion of choice. Because you kill everyone and you end up in the same room as if you save everyone.
Right. Yeah. There's some choices that are definitely carried on and affect the story permanently, but a lot of them, it is sort of an illusion of choice, like you say. Yeah. So, and it's more about the feeling you get when you make the choice, rather than, it's more about the journey of the choice rather than what the choice ends up making happen.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect way to say it. It's the feeling you get when the choice is made more than the narrative result that the game shows you. Right.
And when you're doing operations, do you feel that, like, when the people who are more the leaders in the group, does that sort of parse out to different personality types, or does that sometimes go against type too? Where, because I think Tio's more introverted, but he was usually the operations group for us, and so clearly he was comfortable leading our group, and so
I think that it could. It depends on actually a lot of variables. For me, when I'm having to be more firm, for example, if a student doesn't do something correctly, then I can give them that critique and the resulting points deduction, because I'm safe from the feelings ramifications of that, because I'm correct and I'm the teacher, right? So if you're the raid leader and the fights and where the DPS that are melee are supposed to be as opposed to the ones that are ranged, and what the healers are supposed to cleanse, and where they're supposed to stand and where they're supposed to put the AoE heals down, and when, then you may really not enjoy talking at a podium in front of 200 people, but you're safe because you understand the fight and that shields you from the ramifications of whether you're an introvert or an extrovert in that scenario. So it could be, that being the raid leader isn't just an introvert or an extrovert quality.
Right. Yeah, and it impinges on a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And let's see, was there anything in like you saw in chat or anything, or any other question or any other subjects that you wanted to hit?
Well, I'm just really excited that in the chat it seems that I've created an INTJ rebellion. So that's pretty cool. No, I mean, I think that there's so many topics that the video games open up for us, because I think video games are an expression of what we're hoping to achieve in reality in a lot of ways, but just differently. So, for me, the most challenging thing in SWTOR, honestly, is that I'm part of a team and I can't just beat these operations bosses myself.
Sure.
So that's the most humbling thing about it. But then you go all over the place. We talk about how we bond with people, how we're motivated to play, what part of our day we use the game, and what it's accomplishing for us. And even, not really a SWTOR specific news story, but I saw yesterday that there's this, this growing social discussion over loot boxes and how many features of gambling can be involved. So for me, from a psychological perspective, why do we buy loot boxes is a really interesting question too. That is not for today's episode, obviously, but I think that because I'm pretty consistently experiencing my life through the lens of my academics, that I'm always thinking about these things, even when I'm just trying to win a flashpoint or an operation. So I just love to come on and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Dr. SWTOR. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, then. That's the show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the CL Shan server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @OotiniCast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record their show live, generally every 2 weeks on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you, Dr. SWTOR.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Can I add one more thing?
Of course.
If you enjoyed some of the things I was talking about, please just click over and follow my Twitch channel. I'm trying to get some of those achievements checked off, and I'd love to get to know you more.
Absolutely. That's twitch.tv/Dr. SWTOR, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Yeah. And go ahead and keep recording on Audacity, Dr. SWTOR, while I take us out. And thanks for coming, everyone. As far as I know, the next episode will be in 2 weeks. And Tio most likely will be available again. So we'll go from there. And thanks for coming. And we'll see you next time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. But like I say, keep recording.
Yep.
And stopping the broadcast.